Hello and welcome to the seventh in this series of podcasts. My name's Simon Roskrow and this one is about the arcane world of corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility often can be seen as a little bit of a piggy in the middle. It gets squeezed from two sides, and two very different sides. On the one hand, you've got people like this. You may not recognise him, but he is actually my favourite economist of all time. I'm one of the few people I know who has a favourite economist. This is a Milton Friedman, and he made a statement that corporate social responsibility is a fundamentally subversive doctrine. He thought it was completely against the purpose of organisations to have any sort of policy towards corporate social responsibility. The reason for that is he believes that the purpose of an organisation is entirely about delivering shareholder value, delivering profit to make returns to the shareholders who own that particular business. Anything other than that is merely fluff, is merely a distraction, and therefore should be culled from any organisation's philosophy. On the other hand, of course, we have the flower power group, the hippies, the people who think that organisations should be entirely soft and fluffy, that profit is somehow an evil word, that we shouldn't build anything in order to drive shareholder value. We should do it to drive some sort of intrinsic good in the world. Now, I'm not here to argue that either of those things are wrong. I'd like to argue from a far more pragmatic point of view that it's perfectly possible to achieve both of these objectives at the same time. And that's where really, really smart corporate social responsibility can come in. What we can do is take these two completely opposing tents, these two completely opposing groups of people, and merge them into some sort of third way around corporate social responsibility that delivers things for the organisation and therefore delivers things for the shareholders in the organisation, but is also about doing the right thing as well. I mentioned earlier that I have a favourite economist, and one of the reasons I have a favourite economist is that I believe in the concept of rationality, that people will do things in their own self-interest, just as organisations will do things in their own self-interest. However, what we need to do is develop that into being enlightened self-interest. We need to look much more broadly at what constitutes self-interest and how we can actually achieve our own objectives whilst doing good for the communities in which we work and in which we operate. Going back to the 1950s, when corporate social responsibility really started to kick off as a buzzword, as a piece of terminology, as you've seen the growth over the last 60 to 70 years in corporate social responsibility, it's had its peaks and troughs, but there's a definite argument at the moment that enthusiasm for it has started to tail off somewhat. And there are three possible arguments why this is the case. The first is that it's been approached in a very incremental fashion. That actually it's been driven by standards such as the ISO standards, consistently trying to marginally improve the supply chain that we have, the impact on the environment that we have, the carbon footprint that we have, and all of these big issues being adjusted ever so slightly. There's nothing wrong with doing all of that at all. However, what it won't do is transform the way that organisations work, and it won't transform communities, certainly not with any speed. The second challenge that's been faced is that it's seen as a peripheral part. This would be the Friedman part, the fact that it's a fundamentally subversive doctrine. It's actually nothing to do with the core part of the business, and therefore it gets hived off into a different part of the organisation. Nobody really cares about it apart from those few who happen to be intrinsically enthusiastic about corporate social responsibility, and it's seen as a bit of a nice to have, a little bit of a sideline. It's not taken as seriously as it should be. The third problem is that it's uneconomic, that businesses, particularly in tough times, see corporate social responsibility as something that is a cost in the business, rather than something that is actually going to drive value into the business. And if it's seen in that way, it's one of the first things that will ever be cut from an organisation, and it's certainly not one of the first things that an organisation will choose to invest in. We believe that you need to look at corporate social responsibility very differently. Corporate social responsibility 2.0, if you like. What we mean by this is we actually look at the organisation's objectives, what the goal of the organisation is, and how we actually start to benefit the organisation through undertaking corporate social responsibility activities. If you look at this chart, there are four areas on the chart. Value creation, very clearly directly in the interest of the organisation. Good governance, clearly in the interest of the organisation. Societal contribution and environmental integrity, very good things to have, but we're going to put those on one side for the moment because we want to look specifically into this area of enlightened self-interest. So looking at these first two, economic development through value creation. How do we drive value into the business through creating great CSR projects? And how do we create good governance, good leadership and management in organisations through great CSR projects? Well, there is a way, because there are three things that an organisation can benefit from directly from involvement in CSR projects. The first of those is around employee motivation and employee satisfaction. People who feel aligned with their organisation, aligned with the communities in which that organisation works, are going to be more motivated because they can see very direct, very clear and very local benefits from what they are doing and delivering into the communities in which they live and work. If you've got happy people at work, satisfied people at work, they will be more productive. See our video on customer service to prove that in the case of Southwest Airlines. They will be more productive, which means they'll deliver better customer service, they'll deliver better financial results, they'll deliver better performance for the organisation, and it is entirely within the self-interest of the organisation to have employees with high levels of morale. What it will also do is help retain the right people in the organisation. It gives people a natural incentive to stay in an organisation if they feel in their guts, if they feel in their heart, if they feel in their soul that they're there for a higher purpose than just turning up to do a job. Again, if these CSR projects are local, within the communities in which they operate, then actually people can see direct benefits outside the organisation. And it creates that feel-good factor that means people want to stay within the organisation that is helping them to deliver those things into the community. The third one is about attracting people. It's about getting the right people into the organisation in the first place. Very few people want to join unattractive organisations, and those who do are probably not the sort of people who you want to attract into your organisation in the first place. What we're actually looking for is the ability to create an organisation that naturally attracts those sort of people who share the same values as us, who have the same moral compass as us. And if we use CSR projects as a way of creating the direction of our moral compass, it's a very clear indicator to other people that you are the sort of organisation that they should be joining. So how do we go about doing this? The first key is to actually set up the project in the first place, the thing that we are going to do in the first place. It's no good seeing it as pieces of piecemeal activity. They might be nice to do things, but we need to look at it as a whole. By looking at it as a whole, what we can actually do is target employee objectives, organisational objectives, and then tie those in to a community way of delivering against those objectives, benefiting the community whilst benefiting the organisation and the employees at the same time. To give you a couple of practical examples of that, think about some of the basic things that training is provided on. Number one might be something like time management. By all means, send people on a time management course. Talk to them about the best tools and techniques to use. That's great. But if we want to make it truly experiential and we can benefit the community at the same time, we will get a far more profound and deeper sense of learning whilst benefiting our communities. So we could do that, for example, by setting up a time-limited project with a local charity, with a local organisation who need help. And by doing that, we can show people in a very practical way how certain time management techniques work to deliver real results very, very quickly, and then those real results are seen as a benefit to the community. You kill two birds with one stone. Another way of doing that would be to look perhaps at coaching or mentoring skills. There are loads of organisations out there working with children, working with the unemployed, working with anybody in difficult situations perhaps, who need coaching and mentoring from people with great business skills, great commercial acumen, financial skills, social skills and so on. How about, in addition to training on the theory of how to motivate, how to manage people, how to coach people, how to mentor people, you actually built on top of the theory some practical ways of doing it and gave people the experience of mentoring those people who really, really need it. Again, two benefits. You get the training being built on by genuine experiential learning that helps embed that learning, and you're benefiting the community at the same time. Two birds, one stone. A third area might be a specific project itself. How do we actually manage a project all the way through? We've run these sort of sessions where it's been over a long period of time. We've established a project. We've gone through the planning phase, right through to the implementation and follow-up phase. And through that process, all of the training targets have been hit on the way through, but a great project is delivered for a local community at the same time. It's a fantastic way of integrating training with the community, with the organisation, and making sure that all of those things are linked together. What we call this at Lammore is our give to grow process. Organisations, any organisation, can afford to give something, give time, give effort, give commitment to an external organisation who need it, and they will benefit and grow from it as long as that CSR project is designed to hit the objectives that the organisation has. Thank you very much for listening to this. It's a really interesting topic. It's a topic that we are genuinely very excited about, and we would love to help you with it. We're here for Q&As, both in terms of what we can do, but our general philosophy behind corporate social responsibility as well. So please, over to you.